Good morning and welcome to Ananda and to all those that are tuning into the internet. This reading is from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda, entitled, Come to me as peace in sleep and as joy when I am awake. Dear Heavenly Father, when I'm asleep, come to me as peace. When I'm awake, come to me as joy. When I give kindness to others, come to me as love. When I run with high energy through my legs. When I think, send understanding through my thoughts. When I use willpower, send your willpower through me. Teach me to think, play, behave, and use my will rightly, for thou art always by me. I love to be guided by thee, for thou, more even than my parents, dost always wish the best for me. And from the New Path by Swami Kriyananda, this is drawn from the chapter Work versus Meditation. The spiritual path would, one suspects, be relatively easy to understand if it involved only meditation, ecstatic visions, and a blissful expansion of consciousness. Why, one asks, must it be complicated by mundane activities like ditch digging and letter writing and cleaning up kitchens? One may sympathize, on one level at least, with a reluctant disciple on the day we completed the swimming pool at 29 Palms, who grumbled, I didn't come here to pour cement. Many a sincere devotee, too, has probably wondered what pouring cement, or digging ditches, or writing letters, or cleaning up kitchens has to do with finding God. The answer is, quite simply, nothing. Not in itself, anyway. Master once told a story of a man who placed a $100 bill in a collection plate at church, then was upset because God didn't answer his prayer. Laughingly, Master commented, God already was that $100 bill, whether in or out of the collection plate. Why should he care where it was placed? The realm of Maya, cosmic delusion, is like the surface of an ocean. No matter how high the waves are whipped by the storm, the overall ocean level remains the same. God doesn't need anything that we can give him. He already is everything. The one thing he wants from us, Master said, is our love. The purpose of spiritual work, then, is not really to do things for God, but rather to do the most important thing of all for ourselves, to purify our own hearts. No work for God is more or less important than any other. The Bhagavad Gita states that he accepts even a flower or a leaf as an offering, if it is tendered with devotion. The important thing is to reach the point where all our love, all our energy flows naturally toward him. Recently we were up in Delhi. It's an annual, we're calling it a FRO retreat, or an FRO vacation, so that we keep our sense of humor as we are going through the process of getting our employment visa stamped and so forth. And so part of that is you're running around doing the things, going to the offices, the police station and whatnot. But also it's off to the barista and the bookstore and so forth, because a lot of the time too is waiting, and also the joy of seeing old friends and new friends as well. So it has its compensations. And so we were at the bookstore, and it's always fun to see, you know, which book jumps out at you as you're looking for different ways to both be inspired and entertained, because after all, that's, as Yogananda described, is what we are doing here. We're here to be entertained and instructed. And I don't know about you, but I've always thought it was very sweet of God, or Yogananda, I should say, as merged in God, to say, first entertained and then instructed. Because there's enough austerity in this world for him to have said, we're here to be instructed, and then if there's any time left over, to be entertained. I thought, well, okay, well, that could have been it, but it wasn't. Thank goodness for that. We're here to be entertained and instructed. So at the bookstore, we were looking for various things, such as, you know, James Herriot's books. I don't know if you've read them. This vet in Ireland, England, Scotland, wherever it is. Fabulous animal stories and so on. So we got that. And then one book was a book about the experience that children have had and told their children of heaven, written by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. And quite something. There was one particular time, and these kids are little kids, 3 years old, 4 years old, very often, very, very small little ones. And the parents were there around as the children were playing. And all of a sudden, they both broke out into fluent Chinese. And these were American-speaking children. It was just for a few minutes. And then they went right back to playing. I thought, oh my God. Divine Mother is always giving us little hints that there's more that's going on than this seeming reality. I'd never heard anything like that. There's many, many variations of what you hear children speaking of, and they're all delightful and inspiring. But Chinese, both of them, what were they saying? And then it never came up again. And that's what I find very, very interesting. These children in this book would make comments like, well, you're my mom, but my other mom. And the mom would say, well, what are you talking about, your other mom? Well, in a previous lifetime, such and so. And it was like, oh my goodness, and it came up again and again. It's not one isolated incident. There were so many stories and so many recordings of these children talking about God and about heaven. And it made the experience so very, very close. And they would say as they were growing older, maybe 8, 9, and 10, the parent would say, do you remember when you said that you chose me? And the child would say, no, I don't remember. And it's, again, the power of the Maya. We come down full-blown with that experience from heaven. And such an experience it is. One of the children described heaven as filled with parks. I thought, nice, very nice. I hadn't heard that. It makes perfect sense. Another one said, the fruit is much sweeter there. And another talked about the beautiful colors. And on it went. These very, very magnetic descriptions of that land, that we really truly belong, that heavenly region. And what we're trying to do, and quite a task it is for us, is to bring that experience, however we find it, from within, perhaps from reading this book as I was describing, to bring that experience, that fresh experience of love and of God's presence here in this world, where there's a great need, because people forget. I was talking to a friend the other day. He came over and we were having a wonderful conversation. And he said to me, I had about 10 years where Maya got a hold of me. And I thought, oh my gosh, that experience is something we can all relate to. Be it 10 years, be it a minute, be it a few days, a few weeks. The great tidal wave of Maya comes. And we are well-intentioned, and we are sincere, and we want to do all that we can. But when that Maya comes, the next thing we know, we are shaking ourselves awake, like Narada, who was asked by God, could you please fetch me some water? They were out in the desert, and Narada was very happy to do that. Such a classic story. And out he went. And the Maya caught up with him, and the next thing you know, he knocked on a door. He was greeted by a lovely woman. They got married. They had children. He was just going for a glass of water. I thought, oh my gosh, what a Maya we have. And then tragedy struck, and a flood happened. He lost his family, and there God found him there on the sand. And only a half an hour had passed. And God said, well, what were you doing? And you know, here I asked you to get me some water, and I find you asleep on the sand. And Dharma realized that everything so real, was unreal. It was a complete dream. And so for us, it's important to lead a balanced life. We strive for that, all of us. But we're all in chapters. And I'm not now, look at me with my gray hair, I'm not in the chapter that some of you are in, that I am seeing about the room, and there on the internet with children and so forth. That's a different chapter. That's a whole different chapter. But all the chapters are so sweet and so meaningful and so powerful and meant to entertain us and instruct us. Even though they might be very, very demanding at times, as I used to share when our daughter was very little, and I said to a friend, it was with humor, but there was a bit of seriousness too. I said, my leisure is dental flossing. And I thought to myself, it really is. My leisure really is dental flossing, when I can close the door in the bathroom and take a few moments just to comb my hair and spruce up a little bit and take a deep breath and say, okay, you open the door and then all hell breaks loose again as you are facing all the many duties and demands of this world. And again, for us, it's a very, very, very much a privileged existence that we have, because we need, as Yogananda said, to keep our eyes on our own platter. That's very, very important. I was talking to a friend that was having some issues in meditation, and there was some physical strain and so forth and so on, and we were talking about that. Because you would think, again, if it was all blissful visions and so on, how many would be crowded in to seek God? But there's things that come up. And I was saying, you know, for me, with the yoga postures, as much as I love them, and I do, after a set of yoga postures, you have a meditation. Invariably, I can almost guarantee it, that is so deep and so blissful. But I said, when I was younger, I don't really do that much anymore, if at all. I don't think so. When I was younger, I would look and see somebody stretching a little farther. I thought, okay, that's for me. And I would do it, twang, you know, out would go my back, and I would think, when am I going to learn that lesson? Keep your eyes on your own platter, because even a simple little stretch, even though you might not you know, find your toes anywhere near, still the benefit is there. And so for us, the sweetness is the continued determination to embrace smriti, memory, so that, like those little children, that would relate to the parents and shock them. Almost every single page from that book that we read, the parents were shocked. Just absolutely shocked. I just saw Grandpa. Grandpa had been dead for 10 years. And he was sitting on my bed and telling me stories. And does Grandpa come very often? Yeah, he comes every night. It's just like, oh my gosh. And that child didn't even know that Grandpa had died. So real was the experience. So which is more real? We can get confused by that, but we needn't. Because what is really happening is joy. What is really happening is love. What is really happening is this deep, deep experience that we are having when we're silent and when we're quiet of God's presence. What's really happening is when we share the luxury of having an inner life with others. Because as we share, we're blessed. Because the instrument is blessed by that which flows through it. And so in our lives, we need to really spend time being grateful. I know when we were in Delhi, we were in Gurgaon for 5 years. And so again, we know that place. I have lots of friends and all of that. But we couldn't help but thinking about all of you in Bangalore and the weather. We were roasting up there. And I thought, all those people that are in Delhi, God bless them. God bless them, you know, going around in all of that heat and sweating and so forth. And yet, why are they there? They're there because they feel that this is the place for them to be and to serve in the ways that they are to serve. And so for us, if we're a mother or a father or a monk or a nun or whatever we are, we're in corporate or we have our own business or whatever, the main thing is to appreciate that Divine Mother is very, very keen on using us as her instruments every single day. In this world, we may think we have days off. Here at the center, we like our Mondays. And we think, oh boy, it's Monday, and Monday all the activities are suspended, we can do whatever we want, and so forth. But really, it's complete illusion, because every day, for all of us on this earth plane, it's important to stay vigilant. Very important, because one thought, that's how important it is to monitor our thoughts. One thought and we're off. And we can be off for a long time. By contrast, one thought and we can get back on track after days and weeks of being in this great Maya, swimming around confused and wondering, what are we doing? And one thought comes, well, why don't we pick up the autobiography of the yogi randomly and ask the master to speak to us? And we do, and for the umpteenth time, there's that perfect thought. And we exhale and we breathe. We exhale and say to God, thank you. I can't believe how easy it is to get off track. And I can't believe how easy it is to get back on track. Thank you for that, because if it wasn't the case, we would never get out of this maze. And so in the reading that we read there of the path, that God didn't care whether the $100 bill was in the collection plate. He was the $100 bill. For us, really, it's a matter of being very, very careful that we are always, to the extent that we can be, in a state of gratitude. For many, many years, I wasn't grateful. And I was on the spiritual path. It's an embarrassing testimonial, negative testimonial, but I just wasn't. I was too mad at God. I was too mad because why, you know, Rajarsi John Yogananda's most advanced disciple after 5 years was in Samadhi, and gee, I've been on the path 6 years. And now, what is this? And so forth. All of these silly thoughts that would come. And yet, at one point, I thought, where's my peace of mind? I have an inner life, I have a guru, I have so many blessings as we all do in superabundance. And then I thought, well, practicing the presence of God, there's been a book written by it. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And the book title irritated me at first. You have to practice the presence of God. Have we gotten that far off our center? I thought, well, Yogananda recommended that book. I should practice gratitude and be happy for everything that comes. And when I finally got that thought, and when it finally penetrated this blockhead of mine, I thought this should be your sadhana, and it has been for the rest of your life. And thank God for absolutely everything. Thank you for getting me the store and back, and I'm still dry. I was looking up and I thought, I'm not going to bring my umbrella because I think it'd be fun just to see what happens. But nevertheless, I did want to come back dry. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for this sweet smile that's come from the stranger that I'll probably never see again. I really needed that at this moment. Thank you for my, parents. Thank you for, my grandparents. Thank you for all the people that are in my lives encouraging and supporting me. And can I also find ways to support them out of gratitude? And so, on the spiritual path, the continued lesson is to keep our lives simple. Plain living and high thinking is what Yogananda talked about. And unfortunately, in this world, the many billions are practicing the opposite. High living and plain thinking, if you have any time to think at all, you know, as we're orbiting around ourselves endlessly. But that's not what's going to take us into that state of bliss. The state of bliss it permeated the experiences of all these children who talked about their experiences with God. And when the parents, you know, some of them a little skeptical because either they were non-religious or they were, you know, peripheral Christians or whatever it might be, they were in such a state of shock. They could only think that maybe their kids got this from the television or from their friends, something. But the kids, 100%, were absolutely sincere, and that was so meaningful for the parents that many of the stories were, my child, who's 21 now, but when we related this experience was 3, that experience that they shared with me was so profound that it is still with me today. It's been branded into my consciousness that my child was talking to God and looking down and seeing all the different parents that were possible, and that this is the good one for me. And the parents just thought, my God, you were with God, sitting on a cloud, looking at all the different possibilities, and you chose us? Wow, what an honor. And the love for their child increases 100-fold. And they believe it, and they meditate on it, and they talk to their friends about it. And very many times their other friends, though timid to talk to anyone, will say, you know something, I have a cousin who had a child and had similar experience. You see, they say, my goodness, it seems to be everywhere. This isn't some isolated experience. And so the joy of living for God, the joy of having sadhana, the joy of having all the things that God has given to us in this very short span of life. If there's anything about being on the path now, nearly 50 years, is I can really say, and I'm telling you, it's the truth, life goes by like a freight train. It's really, really fast. And when you look back, it is a dream, an absolute dream. I look at photos sometimes of myself or my wife when they're just little, and you just think, who are they? And then you pass by a few years and you see the next picture, and there's hair, and the hair is a different color, and so on. Who are those guys? And so forth. It's us, masquerading in all of these different forms. But what was important was that we were striving to grow, that we were striving to have an inner life, to have a meaningful life. Most people don't think it's possible to make the needed money, have a roof over our head, and have a meaningful life. They don't think it's possible. But yogis know differently. And yogis are so stubborn, Ananda said he did attract several people, that even if we starve, fine, I want a meaningful life first. That goes along with seek ye first the kingdom of God. And all of these things shall be added unto you. But it needn't be that. It needn't be that extreme. We can have both. And that's why Swami Kriyabans like to talk about the 2 bottom lines. We all know about the first one, you know, get those rupees and dollars. But peace of mind. You have both. You can have both. Sometimes it's not easy, but it's well worth working for. Because in that way we can be an example for others that are also striving to attain that courage. And that's what it takes to get to that point where we can have a meaningful life. Very important. Meaningful life is a life with God. That's what a meaningful life is. So we're paddling along, moving forward, stroke by stroke, and we're getting there. And again, don't think for a moment. If anyone tells you differently, say thank you very much, but I will keep my own counsel that finding God is either impossible or hundreds or thousands of lifetimes away. Look at us with all these bad habits. Don't pay any attention to that. Don't pay any attention. We have a shot at finding God this life. that's what we want. And that's what we should move towards, don't we? We do have a shot at that. One of these lifetimes, we're going to be finding God. We might as well choose this one. And there is that distinct possibility. Because all I ever see with people on the spiritual path, that have embraced it with all their heart, is I see angels. Well, what are these angels doing here? Well, they're helping out, of course. But where are they going back to? They're going back to their home. Because they know where their home is. There's no confusion there. They are angels and they know where they live. And this is just a temporary stopping point where we do as much good as we can. And then we return back into the light. So, God bless you all. And have a happy Sunday. And bless you for continuing to make the effort. Because the effort isn't just for our own realization. The effort is really for many, many people. Many people will never meet. Because as we dive deep into consciousness, and consciousness expands, and bliss expands, really fill the whole world. That really is one of the miracles that we have in our lives. We are much more than we think we are. We're spirit. Okay, well.